Choose Legends 7 is done, but Choose Legends 5 is back to party. For update 7.9, we have 7 new refines, so I'll be splitting this batch into 2 sections. For part 1, this video will cover the 4 CYL 5 winners, Brave Eirika, Marth, Gatekeeper, and Marianne. For part 2, we'll talk about our first refine for the Tokyo Sessions units, starting with Itsuki. We then have mythic remixes for Mirabilis and Hell. I'll have links to that video when it's up and finished. Up first, we have Brave Eirika, a Lance Cavalier with great offensive capabilities due to her extremely potent special procs. This refine doesn't exactly address some of the issues I have with Eirika, however it does help her out in the stat department and does make her an even better all-around unit. Binding Reginleif got 2 changes. It's a 16-byte lance that exerts specials and is effective against armored and cavalry foes. If Eirika has more than 25% HP, she gets plus 5 to all stats, reduces damage from the foe's first hit by 40%, and neutralizes effects that prevent Eirika's follow-up attacks, aka offensive no follow. The base effect's damage reduction went from 30% to 40%. The offensive no follow perk was previously player phase only, but it is now for either phase. Further refined, if Eirika initiates or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grants another plus 5 stats, inflicts attack, speed, and defense debuffs on the foes equal to X, neutralize the foe's field buffs to attack, speed, and defense, and then finally Eirika gets defense and no follow-up. For the debuff amount, X is equal to 5 plus the number of active status effects on the foe, maxes out at -9 debuffs if the foe has 4 status effects. For those familiar, this refine is essentially low attack, speed, and defense 4 all in one package. I'm still not very impressed with the whole I get 1 point of debuff for every active bonus on the foe, but it has a base -5 debuff to start with. With the refine, Eirika essentially got an extra plus 10 to all stats on top of her previous plus 5. She now has both parts of no follow-up and they can work on both phases. Defense and no follow-up is fine, but I expect Eirika to get the KO with Moonlight Bango and a special. In those cases, I don't really care if the full follows up, they should be dead. However, this will help for enemy phase. Like I said, this refine does give Eirika better all-around performance, especially with all those extra stats and nullifying most field buffs. That being said, Brave Eirika is mostly an initiator thanks to Moonlight Bango. It grants Kanto 2, no guard, and deals massive true damage on special trigger equal to a percentage of the foe's defense stat. It's like an extra Moonbow or Luna worth of damage. Additionally, she has Search Sparrow to heal back up so she can fight over and over. Personally, I'm okay with this refine. I was hoping for either guard like Summer Eirika got, or no special charge since I'm still afraid of special counterattacks. Higher DR and stats help, but if the enemy has a DR piercing special, well that's not ideal. Additionally, while Moonlight Bango is hilarious, it does not deal with enemy damage reduction. I'm only slightly joking when I say that Legendary Allier's DR piercing special support is the real refine for Eirika I was hoping for. Now in terms of playstyle, really nothing has changed. Eirika's base kit is still fantastic, and while there are a few new options, the idea is that Eirika initiates, outspeeds, follows up with a big special plus Moonlight Bango burst, and then you heal any damage taken via Surge Sparrow's % max HP healing. Being able to initiate, take like 30 damage, and then heal enough to fight again is very satisfying, and it only gets better with this stat heavy refine for Binding Reginleif. We got slightly more DR, at least another plus 10 stats, and Eirika will ignore enemy field buffs. With the extra help, I do think it makes it easier to run non-stat boosting Sacred Seals. Heavy Blade is a fun option because that lets Eirika upgrade to Dragon Fang or Astra, more special damage, more Moonlight Bango damage, and more Surge Sparrow healing. This is susceptible to no special charging though. For more defense, the Guard Seal is a great option. Being able to burst it down with a special is not ideal, especially if it's a DR piercing one. Now for some other regular passive skills, Eirika could swap to Clash 4 or Catch 4. These are stat boosters for either phase, and Clash 4 can even negate debuffs. You trade potentially more stats with the enemy phase power for Surge Sparrow's massive healing sustain. As for C skills, I personally like the upfront stat advantages from Attack and Speed Menace. It's great for winning speed battles. However, you can also opt for Speed Smoke 4 for extra dodge DR in the enemy phase. It's an option. Alarm Attack and Speed is another good skill, but it feels a bit wasted since Eirika already has Kanto 2. If you just want to have fun, the extra stats do empower fun distant counter builds if you wish. Eirika will now have full no follow-up for the enemy phase. Besides other stat boosters, you could get a little weird with Sacred Seals such as Desperation, maybe a Deflect skill, maybe Hardy Bearing or Mystic Boost. Generally speaking, Brave Eirika has most of the perks she wants from her weapon and kit. Not a lot of improvements can be made to drastically change how she plays. The only major one is a way to pierce damage reduction. No skills can do that for Eirika, which is why I do think she's a very good candidate for Legendary Allier's DR piercing on special support ability. When I saw that, my eyes got really big, knowing Eirika was going to give her 5. Additionally, Brave Robin's Rally Spectrum's another great support tool, considering Eirika is all about that big special burst. All in all, this is a perfectly fine refine, not exactly what I was hoping for, but it is quite a lot of help in the stats department, and that's not really a bad thing. Our next CYL 5 winner is Brave Marth. He's a sword infantry with the common Swordmaster speedy stat spread and has a couple fun perks, including Vantage. However, to get stronger, Marth needs field buffs on his allies. This is where Shining Emblem comes in, which is his unique 2 cooldown special. Each turn, if Marth is near his team, he gets full +6 field buffs and gives his allies +6 attack. The special does 35% of speed, so slightly weaker Reginal Astra damage. After combat, Marth will then give all allies full +6 buffs, and this is important for his weapon. Genesis Falchion did not get a lot of crazy changes, however, unlike Brave Eirika, a lot of Marth's playstyle will depend on his passive skills. I would say he does need a bit of an overhaul for that base kit. Now this weapon accelerates specials and is effective against dragons. If Marth initiates or is near an ally, he's going to get +5 to all stats and can get 3 levels of effects based on the total field buffs on 3 allies with the highest total field buffs. This doesn't have a range. If you have higher than 10 total field buffs, Marth will get full no follow-up effects as well as no guard now. Higher than 25 field buffs, Marth gets +5 attack and heals for 7 HP on hit. If you have 60 or more field buffs, Marth gets Vantage. Just to be clear, let's do an example. Shining Emblem can give Marth's team +6 attack. 3 allies with this equals 18 total field buffs. That's enough to activate no follow-up and no guard. After combat, Shining Emblem should have procced and will give every ally full +6 field buffs. This is 24 buffs times 3 for 72 total field buffs. For the coming enemy phase, Marth will now have Vantage, +5 attack, and then that's 7 HP healing on hits. This is the general idea of his playstyle. New to the base weapon is that no guard, and the on-hit healing went from 5 to 7. Moving on to the refine, at start of combat, if Marth has more than 25% HP, grant +X to all stats and reduce damage from first attacks, with an S, by 40% during combat. That 40% DR works against brave hits, and for the extra stats, Marth gets a base +5, and then he has a bonus double effect that works on himself or his allies within 2 spaces. Shining Emblem gives Marth full buffs, so the refine basically is a free +11 extra stats. The base effect and Shining Emblem's field buffs, Marth comes out with +22 to all stats from the get-go. If Marth's field buffs were to get neutralized, he can make some ground up by using his nearby allies buffs. For the most part, no guard and 40% DR aren't bad additions for Marth. Not too many changes though from his refine. Brave Marth's playstyle has kind of changed over time depending on what new skills players may have given him. Quite a lot has been introduced since 2 years ago. We went over Marth's general playstyle, and there's a common setup that synergizes really well with Genesis Falchion and Shining Emblem. I would say Times Pulse 4 probably is the best overall addition to Marth's kit. For one, you get instant Shining Emblem, which means at the very least the team will get buffed up. Should Marth outspeed while getting hit back, it also means double Shining Emblem procs since he has no guard. The best ace go for special spammers like this is attack and speed finish 4, extra 5 damage, and the 7 healing on hits stacks with the weapon for a whopping 14 HP every time Marth hits something. Lots of sustain, especially with a double. You then parry these with a dodge B skill, preferably a tier 4 one. Doesn't have to be Spurn 4, but Marth has Spurn 3 already. That's going to be another damage reduction source to stack with, and all the extra stats, Marth just gets tougher to KO. Now if you want to play around, say, Vantage, then distant counter builds can be fun. Marth has distant pressure by default. It's okay, but it has recoil damage, and we have a very spicy new distant and close counter A skill coming with the next banner. Attack and speed prime 4 can give distant counter to Marth, but you're gonna need 4 status effects, and Marth's kit gives him none. It's a lot of work from outside sources, but it also will give him +9 attack and speed at the same time, so the reward, I think it's kind of worth the hassle. Now for any DC build, you can run No C Disrupt. This will let Marth counter against sweep effects, plus it's another layer of %DR for general combat. If you proc Vantage and you still run Times Pulse, then Marth can get off double Shining Emblems for the enemy phase. That sounds quite fun. The issue for using Distant Counter is that unless this is after Marth procs Shining Emblem on the player phase, he isn't buffing anyone on his team fully. You need 60 total field buffs to get advantage, so I suggest having another dedicated buffer around, and No Panic would be another good addition for consistency. For some other skills, you can stack bonus W effects. We got the Sacred Seal, maybe you could get the status from an ally like Legendary Eliwood. If you want to take a page from Legendary Marth, you could run Unity, although you really want Robin's Grand Strategy in those cases, just all the stat stacking. For B skills, Special Spiral 4 provides DR Piercing, Marth wants. With Times Pulse and Vantage ready, you could fire off Shining Emblems that pierce damage reduction, which can take out squishy foes. Technically, you don't need Times Pulse, but you would generally want a way to pre-charge Shining Emblem, at least for the first time. With all of this said, this is another opportunity for Legendary Eirika to shine. If she gives Marth DR Piercing specials, you could run Nelsie Disrupt or whatever in place of Special Spiral entirely. Now, for some oddball skills, I wouldn't necessarily say are the best, but can work. You could go with Desperation 4, Guard 4, maybe Bulwark. If you're willing to toss Shining Emblem in the trash, I guess Gambit 4 is an option. For C skills, extra dodge DR from Smoke 4 or extra stats from Panic Smoke 4 are fun as well. Overall, Brave Marth did get some neat skills from this refine, but nothing out of the ordinary. No Guard is excellent for consistent special spam, and more % DR is great with all the extra stats. Unlike Eirika, Brave Marth has a lot more passive skills to alter how he plays, and I do think that base kit really needs an overhaul. He's a little more setup reliant, especially if you want to use his most unique trait, which is that Vantage. Additionally, the reliance on field buffs is still weak to widespread panic on your team. Brave Marth is a fun sword unit, but he still has to jump through a couple hoops to fight up his full strength. Moving on, we have Brave Gatekeeper. He's a green infantry mage who sacrifices all speed to become a literal wall for his team. Gatekeeper is still one of the most unique supports thanks to his Detailed Report B skill. It has the Bulwark effect, which is that super obstruct, and ranged units cannot normally run those B skills. He also has what is essentially Warp Bubble, which stops all warping within 4 spaces. I cannot believe Warp Bubble has not been on more units. It's an incredible perk, and it's still only on Gatekeeper and Legendary Mirror. The general goal for Gatekeeper is to survive, obstruct attackers from getting to your team's backline, and also providing buffs. Does the refine for Charging Horn add to this role? Now, this 14-Might Tome grants +3 flat defense. It then grants +5 attack and speed to allies within 3 rows or 3 columns centered on the Gatekeeper. He then gets effects for his own combat based on how many allies are within that buffing range. With one ally, inflict attack and debuffs equal to the number of allies in the area times 3. 3 allies equals or will max out at -9 attack and res. If there are 2 allies, Gatekeeper will now get Guard. 3 allies will give him Follow-up Denial. Should Gatekeeper be within 2 spaces of a structure that the enemy team can destroy, then this effect will be treated as having 3 allies at all times. Now, for the base effect, we have higher attack and res debuffs. It went from -6 to -9. New to the weapon is the Guard effect from having 2 allies around. For the refine, grant +5 defense and res to allies within 3 rows or 3 columns, centered on the Gatekeeper, and restore 7 HP to those allies after their own combat. At the start of the Gatekeeper's combat, when above 25% HP, inflict -6 attack and res on the foe, reduce damage from attacks by 20% defense, and then restore 7 HP after combat. Basically, Gatekeeper's drive buffs are now +5 to all stats, and he gives combat or after combat healing, which is excellent. He then gets tankier with extra debuffs, flat damage reduction, and his own after combat healing. From my first impressions, eye test sort of perspective, I don't really know how to feel about this refine. The full spectrum drive buff and healing is good. I think that's fine, although I think they could have thrown in another perk on top, maybe something like a drive guard or Follow-Up Denial, maybe a small flat DR effect if you're feeling spicy. Personally, I think this would have been an incredible opportunity to give the Gatekeeper a Divine Vein effect, let him literally set up a wall to gatekeep. That would have been so cool. Now, for personal combat additions, while an extra -9 attack and res with 20% defense as flat DR is nice, Gatekeeper has little access to actual % DR skills to combo with unless you give out Detailed Report. He can't really run defensive, or he cannot, I should say, run defensive specials, and he's not really going to kill anything in retaliation. He doesn't even have a follow-up. If you use Gatekeeper, you should mostly treat him as an objective to protect, like a green NPC ally in the main games, which is kind of fitting. I would not say he's a main tank, he just wants to be as tanky as possible so he can continue supporting the team. This means he shouldn't really be on the front line unless you're bringing in saviors. In essence, nothing has really changed in terms of playstyle. There's basically one skill that probably would have been on the Gatekeeper if it existed at the time, that is Kanto Control. Bulwark stops high movement flanks, Warp Bubble stops warp teleports, and Kanto Control holds initiators in place. If you want to tank in a defensive formation, that is basically the entire purpose of the Gatekeeper. Again, while you do want to build full tank, I do not think you should expose Gatekeeper to the front lines, at least very often. He isn't going to be like an armor savior, and in fact, you probably should have some saviors on the team with him. Brave Corrin is a pretty excellent new addition with her terrain setup. Now, if you don't have Kanto Control or you don't need it, you could stack more in-combat bumps with Charging Horn's Spectrum Drive. Gatekeeper has Joint Drive defense by default, which is fine, but you could also run something like Joint Drive or Joint Distant Guard, or even regular Close or Distant Guard as Sacred Seals. Even regular Spurs or Drives are fine. Since Charging Horn's buffs do extend across the map, maybe a cross spur could be a fun option. If you have a heavy infantry team, infantry no follow can be valuable. If Gatekeeper's behind an infantry frontliner, you can also use infantry Hexblade to give adaptive damage support. If you don't have anything else, nothing wrong with a casual chill debuff. Now, if you want to get a little silly, let's talk defensive tank skills and fun combat skills. First off, A skills can be things like Defense Res Ideal, Bond, Unity, Finish, Fortress Defense and Res, whatever you got. Form as a Sacred Seal is solid, and you could even grab Deflect Magic or Missile for some sort of % DR. While Gatekeeper has Close Reversal in his base kit, he's really not the best user of it. In fact, I don't think you should run Close Counter at all because he's just going to feed special charges to initiators like Brave Eirika, for example. For C skills, Defense Menace buffs with the Gatekeeper and supports the team with the debuffs. Obviously, not the attack and speed version, but Pledge C skills would be kind of spicy for their bread type cooldown. For example, you could run that with the Rally Spectrum from Robin, and suddenly Gatekeeper can retaliate with an Ignis special. Maybe instead you go for Miracle. Last up, if you drop Detailed Report, we can get more combative perks. Quick Riposte 4 gives that follow-up plus % DR to tank with. Seal Attack 4 is just pure deal stacking. For the Pledge example, Special Spiral 4 for maybe an actual one-shot potential. While fun, Detailed Report is Gatekeeper's identity as a unit. I think it's a shame not to run it, but there is some silly fun to be had if you're crazy enough. When everything's said and done, Gatekeeper is a better support unit. I'm a big fan of the after combat healing effect. I do think healing continues to kind of get out of hand. However, despite some combat additions with the Refine, I still would not put him in unnecessary danger. Treat him like an objective to protect. You're going to want to just let him hinder enemy mobility, and then you let your other units do the actual fighting. Personally, I do feel there's been a lack of support-oriented skills being introduced. Most new effects are from weapons. Maybe we'll get some other options to stack on Gatekeeper in the future. I mean, if Flared Sparrow can deploy Divine Veins from the A slot, who's to say we couldn't get a more defensive Divine Vein A skill in the future? It could happen. Last up for today is Brave Marianne. Back when I first reviewed these units, I said that I felt the devs were a little too tame with Marianne's kit. The reason being that Marianne has a unique special called Requiem Dance. It works like Gale Force, where after combat, if it is charged up, then it activates. It will give the ally with the highest HP within 2 spaces an extra action. It even works on dancers, but the ally that is Requiem Danced will be inflicted with gravity. It also won't proc if multiple units who can be danced have that same HP. Very unique ability, but the issue was that Requiem Dance is a 3 cooldown special. It was not 100% consistent to proc, and that was an issue. Phantasm Tome's Refine solves this in more than one way. This 14-might tome grants +3 speed, and it now accelerates specials. That is huge. If Marianne initiates combat or the foe is more than 50% HP, inflict -6 speed and res on the foe, neutralize their speed and res field buffs, and reduce damage from the foe's first attack by X% during combat. When initiating, X is 80%. For the enemy phase, X is 30%. I think the new Wind Tribe Claude had a prep talk with his fellow Golden Deer because we'll see this exact damage reduction profile in a short bit again. Marianne essentially gets disgusting 80% DR from Fallen Star. It was already 70%, but we'll take another 10% more. New to the base effect is that Marianne gets 30% DR for the enemy phase. Phantasm Tome works on initiations all the time, and of course, accelerated specials is very important. It gets better though. Further refine, if Marianne is above 25% health, grant plus 5 to all stats, deal 20% speed as true damage on hit, including AoE specials, reduce enemy percent DR skills by 50%, and Marianne gets no guard. Getting both Slaying and no guard brings big improvement to Marianne as a unit. It improves Requiem Dance reliability, and it benefits more offensive specials, which Marianne can definitely use. To address the non-damage aspect of Requiem Dance, Marianne will get extra true damage and partial DR piercing, more great perks for an offensive mage. Generally speaking, Brave Marianne gets the easy pick for most improved. You can't get accelerated specials from a skill or support ability, and it opens up some incredibly fun options for her builds. For playstyles, previously we had to get some cooldown in case guard came up, or maybe Marianne just didn't get 3 cooldown in a fight. With accelerated specials, Requiem Dance is now a 2 cooldown. No guard means it takes or will charge guaranteed in 2 actions. Marianne's base kit has times pulse, which means a single action will prime the special. This is a case where you could drop times pulse if you want. For other skills, Marianne has attack speed unity, which is fine since Requiem Dance requires an ally within 2 spaces anyway. She also has no follow-up 3. We have the fancy new tier 4, which also has that 50% DR piercing. These effects actually stack multiplicatively, so with the refine, Marianne can get 75% DR piercing on every hit, which is excellent. She does want no follow-up anyway to double and not get doubled back, so this is a perfectly fine upgrade. In a timely manner, Marianne has a perfect fodder upgrade path via Brave Soren. He has Magic No Follow, Times Pulse 4, and the new Flare special. Marianne can grab all 3 in one go. If you do not want to run Requiem Dance, Flare is a very fun option. It's a stronger Luna that can also pivot to a part healing special, and that's decent since Marianne isn't super tanky, but she has that massive 80% DR. This gives her an opportunity to heal back up for multiple fights, and she even has that 30% DR for enemy phase now. For some alternative skills, if you drop Times Pulse, Flash Sparrow and the new Attack and Speed Pledge both give Breath type cooldown. With no guard, one action will charge Accelerated Requiem Dance or Flare. If you were to run Flash Sparrow, Attack and Speed Oath 4 can be used for warping options. If you were to go for Pledge or even Times Pulse, then you could run Remote Sparrow. I'm not sure if it's fully worth it since 80% TR with 30% DR is just 86% DR total. Is 6% worth it? If you ran another 30% DR skill like Guard 4 or Brash 4 though, that gets around 90% DR. Seems like overkill, but it's definitely still hilarious. At least for enemy phase, if you get 30% DR ability or something like Speed Smoke 4's dot status with Phantasm Tomes Refine, that can get Marianne to around or over 50% damage reduction. That's better than before, but I still wouldn't call it super reliable. Maybe with Flare and team support, it can work though. Let's now talk about some tactics that can get a whole lot more reliable with the Refine in play. Marianne with Wings of Mercy or even Escape Route 4 could be very fun. If an ally were to charge in, maybe with Gale Force and they get low, Marianne can Wings of Mercy warp to them. If you kept Times Pulse, she can land one single hit and Requiem Dance is ready. Only Pulse Smoke or dying is going to prevent that. Let's do another iteration of this. Take Flash Sparrow, Wings of Mercy, and now Diva Smoke 3. Flash Sparrow plus Slaying plus no guard also charges Requiem Dance in one hit. You then have Pathfinder from Diva Smoke 3. Remember, the ally that is Requiem Danced gets hit with gravity. They can only move one space, but Pathfinder could open up more ground to cover. This is just an example of how solid this Refine is for consistency. I think it's an excellent upgrade with many various ways to utilize it. Overall, I still think Brave Marianne is going to be the most technical of the CYL group. Her Refine makes her using her unique ability much easier, but you still need to plan around what to do with the Requiem Danced ally after. Can you work around the gravity part? Maybe you have a warp heavy team that can bypass it entirely. Like with Brave Golvig, the charge status can get around gravity as well. You also have the option to set up Requiem Dances that target other actual dancers. Double dancing, very strong. Although, we are still going to be cutting into Marianne's own personal combat if you keep that special. If you want, nothing is stopping you from using actual damage specials. With the extra cooldown, Marianne can now do pre-charge glimmers with Times Pulse with potential for double procs. You got the partial percent DR piercing, which is very valuable, and of course the fat 80% DR for initiations. Similar to Brave Dimitri from last year, I would say Marianne got the help she needed and more. Definitely exceeded expectations, although I wouldn't say she's now super busted or anything. Requiem Dance has to be planned around to be effective, and that then leads into team comms and execution. Regardless, it's a super solid refine. That'll be it for part 1 of the update 7.9 refines. Let me know what you think about the CYL 5 refined batch, and feel free to share your own build ideas. Next, in part 2, we're going to be talking about Itsuki, Mirabilis, and Hell. I'll have a video up linked when it's done. That's all I got for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.